Well, welcome to the Herb of the Week with me, your host and instructor of the Botanical Medicine Study course, Stephanie Georgiev. Thanks to all who are tuning in and subscribing. I'm also enjoying the comments and emails. I'm trying to respond quicker, so patience to all who feel neglected, or better yet, resend your emails. Sometimes things get lost in the Ethernet. If you would like a free introductory lesson for the class, I have a link in the program notes. Here we are in May. There are so many wonderful songs about May. My personal favorite is the song from the Broadway show of Camelot. I love May mainly because it's one of the best months of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Everything is new in terms of plants. The stormy business of spring is over and the flowers are blooming. Flowers are some of the most amazing aspects of nature, the way they are designed and their purpose. An interesting fact is that flowers are rather new in terms of evolution. During the time of the dinosaurs, flowers were not really present. A plant called horsetail or equisetum is one of the oldest plants alive, meaning the plant species. It's not like those plants have been, individuals' plants have been there since the time of the dinosaurs. But it's very, very old plant. And the reason we know that is because it has no flowers. Now, something interesting about evolution is sometimes it takes quite a long time for something to evolve, something new to be introduced into ecology. And in other instances, nature simply jumps in almost instantaneously. Now, fossil evidence indicates that flowering plants first appeared in the lower Cretaceous period. So I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. Or Cretaceous. I'm not a paleontologist. But anyways, this period happened about 125 million years ago. And again, I want to emphasize in terms of evolution, flowers were pretty spontaneous, which I think is so unbelievably delightful. So, in honor of May and those flowers that are blooming, I thought it would be fun to look at some flowers that are used in botanical medicine for this series. So for this week's Herb of the Week, we'll be exploring sweet violet, or Viola odorata, as it is known in Latin. Violets are some of the first flowers to bloom in spring, and where I live, the forest is just full of them. It's difficult to give specific characteristics for the whole Viola genus, as there are considerable variations between hundreds of species. But there are general traits to look for in terms of Viola odorata and violets. Now, violets are synonymous with the British countryside, and they're mentioned in English herbals from the Middle Ages. And Shakespeare mentioned them in Hamlet. Now, I think it was at the it was at the LA Arboretum. I don't know if it's still there, but at the LA Arboretum, they had a Shakespeare garden where they had all the flowers that were mentioned in any sort of sonnet or play of Shakespeare. So this is one that came from Hamlet statement. Quote, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the perfume and suppliance of a minute, no more. So that statement is alluding to the very temporary nature of violets. Now, Viola odorata is in the family of Violaceae, and it is known as the violet family. Now, Violaceae consists of about 1,000 species in about 25 genera, and it takes its name from the genus Viola, which is the violets and pansies aspect of this family. A little hint for Latin, Viola tricolor is the name for pansies or Johnny jump ups. And Viola odorata is sweet violet. And that's what you see before you. Now, the sweet violet, Viola odorata, Violaceae, is the principal medicinal and culinary species that's used in Europe. And this obviously is transferred to North America. It is cultivated in many areas, and mainly it's planted because of its fragrance. Much of the American use of violets stems from the European herbal tradition. Now, many species of violets are used similarly to the common blue, or I would argue purple, but that's what the botanists call it. Violets are native to North America. While all of them have uses, it's good to note that the sweet violet, or Viola odorata, is the most commonly used because it has such a rich history in Western herbalism. Now, Viola odorata can be distinguished by the following characteristics, and I love this drawing. The F is for flowers, the L is for leaf, and the S is for the seeds. And I personally have never seen the seeds other than in pictures, but if you can see this, good for you. Now, the flowers are scented. The flowers are normally either dark violet or white. The leaves and flowers are all in a basal rosette. The structure of the inner flower is hooked, and it does not end with a rounded appendage. The leaf stalks have hairs which point downwards. You really have to get on your hands and knees with a magnifying glass to see that. And the plant spreads with stolons, or above ground shoots. And these are perennial flowers that mature to a height between 4 and 6 inches, or 10 to 16 centimeters, and a spread of 8 to 24 inches, or 20 to 61 centimeters. The species can be found near the edges of forests or in clearings, and it's also a common uninvited but much beloved guest in shaded lawns or elsewhere in gardens. Now, violet has the following herbal actions and qualities. It's cool, sweet, demulcent, anti-inflammatory, lymphagogue, which means it acts on the lymph system. It's an expectorant, which means it helps you cough up things. Diuretic, which means it helps you urinate. And it's a vulnerary, which means it helps to heal the skin. The leaves and the flowers have traditionally been used for respiratory ailments. If you have a chest or sinus problem with congestion and coughing, such as bronchitis, and a syrup of the flowers is an excellent remedy for soothing children's coughs. Now, violet contains salicylic acid, which is similar to the pain-relieving component in aspirin. And you take aspirin to relieve pain, lower fevers, and stop swelling. And so that's what this plant does for you. And both the leaves and the flowers are used to ease headaches, which means you can make a poultice with those and you put it on your forehead to help get rid of a headache. Now, the violet can also help support sleep and is a wonderful addition to a sleep blend. Now, violet is moist and cooling, as the slide says, and the leaves ease inflammation when used externally. It also helps to soothe skin irritations and swellings. And the way it's used is, make a tea or a poultice and put it places, or you can use an infused oil. Now, violet has an affinity for the lymphatic system, hence that wonderful word lymphagogue, and it promotes healthy lymphatic function. An infused oil of the leaf and the essential oil can be massaged into breasts to maintain breast health. And it's also a wonderful adjunct support for breast cancer treatment and breast cysts. Now, Hildegard of Bingen, the 12th century German mystic and healer, recommended poultices of violet for breast cancer, which I didn't know anybody got in the 12th century, but there you have it. And back in the early days of my practice, I recommended some of my patients to apply the essential oil of violet on Kaposi sarcoma. Now, in those days, and that was in the 80s, the AIDS epidemic was raging out of control, and nobody knew what to do with these poor people other than putting them in isolation. And the drugs we now have were not available during those times. And Kaposi sarcoma is a cancerous skin lesion that many people with AIDS had in those days. So, in my very unscientifically performed and small caseload study, I did see an improvement in the lesions with violet essential oil. It's quite remarkable. So, violet is very good for respiratory issues. As I said before, it's been used to treat chest congestion and sore throats. And this is mainly through syrups. The expectorant properties of violets help break up mucus and make it easier to cough up. And it's wonderful for skin care. It's good for digestive issues. Indigestion, it's been used for constipation and diarrhea, which I think is interesting. But that's how herbal medicines work. They encourage the body to be healthy, functioning, and not just necessarily take away symptoms. It has anti-inflammatory things, so it helps reduce swelling and inflammation in the body. And that's either with topical or internal use. And it's got a lot of antioxidants, those beautiful colors that make up the flower usually means there's lots of antioxidants in there. And it also has antimicrobial properties that can help against bacterial, fungal, and viral infections. Now, there is a safety issue for people who have a rare inherited genetic disorder called G6PD, as in dog. That's glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenate deficiency. If you have that, please do not use violets for anything other than in your garden because it can aggravate hemolytic anemia, which nobody wants to aggravate hemolytic anemia now, do they? Now, the chemical constituents of violet are legion. It's very rich in vitamin A and C, the beautiful colors that make up the flowers. That's basically where that comes from. The flowers contain a volatile oil, a bioflavonoid called rutin. There's obviously this bright pigment. It's methyl salicylate glycosides and anthocyanins. And anthocyanins are the class of bioflavonoids which also make things beautiful colors like red and orange and purple and blue. And those are the things that are actually in berries, such as blueberries and raspberries, that make them so healing. Now, Viola odorata contains alkaloids, and alkaloids are a class of chemicals that work specifically on the nervous system. And it also has glycosides, saponins, methyl salicylate, which is that salicylic acid, which helps, this like aspirin. So it's really a healing plant. And the parts used medicinally are the leaves and flowers. And so the above ground parts of the plant, and not the stolons or the roots. And there's many ways you can take this preparation. You can make infusions like teas, but you have to make it with the fresh flowers. You can use it in syrups. You can make violet honey. You can make vinegar tinctures. You can make them into poultices, compresses, salves, and there's a lot of people making violet salve um, on the internet. So there's many ways to take that. But one of the most popular ways to take violets is through simple syrup. And you can make it with sugar or honey. It's up to you. Please note with honey, uh, there's a danger of botulism spores, and it seems to attack children under the age of 2. So all pediatricians, etc., are always warning, do not use honey with children under the age of 2. I've never encountered that in my practice, but I always give the warning. So you can make it with sugar or honey, however you want to do that. Violets are delicious to eat, but they are very, very fragile, which means they have to be used immediately. There are many salves on the market, or you can make your own with an infused oil of violet. And I've listed a couple of recipes for syrup and candied violets. You can also put them in ice cubes, like a single flower in an ice cube to improve. If you want to have really fancy lemonade over violet ice cubes, that's a way to do that. And there's all kinds of things on the internet and telling you how you can do that. Now, the Viola cornuta, or violet essential oil, is derived from the leaves and the flowers of Viola odorata, and it's always done with a process of steam distillation. So the presence of therapeutic properties in this oil is really all kinds of wonderful benefits. And remember, an essential oil is the most concentrated way that you can take a plant substance. So whatever the plant does as a syrup, it's going to do it really amazingly with the essential oil. It's very, very strong. And the oil has a beautiful floral aroma, which makes it really wonderful in the use of aromatherapy. And note that this essential oil is really expensive. So if you're ordering something online and it's reasonably priced and you're looking for 100% essential oil and something is not very expensive, it's not an essential oil. It's an infused oil. There's nothing wrong with infused oil. And in order to make an infused oil, it means putting plant material into an oil, say olive oil, almond oil, jojoba oil, grapeseed oil, and you put the plant material into the oil and you let it sit for a couple of weeks, and then you strain out the herb material. Many of the flavored oils, such as garlic or chili oils that you see in your grocer's shelf, those are infused oils. And infused oil is perfectly fine. It's just not as concentrated as an essential oil. It takes a whole lot of violets to make the oil, which is why it's so expensive. And it was used in perfumery quite frequently before there were synthetic alternatives. And the best way to note the difference between a synthetic oil and an essential oil is the essential oil doesn't stay fragrant for very long, where the synthetic stays for a very long time, because essential oil basically evaporates and the synthetic stuff stays forever. So it's up to you what you want to use in terms of your perfume. There are quality designers, very, very exclusive designers, such as Gucci, that use violet essential oils in some of their formulas. And let me tell you, if you're into $100 small bottles of perfume, this is the scent for you. Now, if you want to use the essential oil, it can be used to provide respiratory relief. You can add a few drops of the oil to your vaporizer or diffuser and put it next to your bedside. Alternatively, you can add a few drops of it into a boil of boiling hot water and put your face over it and a towel over your head, and you basically make a little tent, and you can inhale the aromatic wafts coming from the water. You can put a few drops of the essential oil of violet into your evening bath water and soak in the goodness. This will help relieve pain relief. It'll help with sleep and reduce stress. And for skincare, you can also dilute the oil in a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning a drop of almond oil and a drop of violet essential oil, and apply it to affected areas. And again, if you have a lot of money, this is a great way to do this. Or you can buy something that has violet in it. Now, all violets are amazing and beautiful. And the ones we have the most experience medicinally is Viola odorata, or sweet violet. They grow wild in forests and meadows and are often welcome guests in our gardens, as they really like wet shaded areas. You can buy a plant and put it in the appropriate place in your garden and it will take off quite nicely and stay for quite a while, meaning many seasons. It may shrink back in the winter, but pop up in the spring. And I have a very comprehensive article, a link to this article in the program notes on how to grow violets. So, however you wish to enjoy this beautiful gift of spring in your garden, candied as a topping for a cupcake, as a syrup or perfume, I hope violets are in your life in some form, as they are simply a delight to every one of our senses. If you would like to learn more about botanical medicine, send me an email request and I will send you a link for a free introductory lesson video and handouts. So this is Stephanie Georgia saying thanks for sharing your valuable time with me. And until next time, be well.